Okay. So, just want to share a story. Okay. So, just want to share a story. Second delay, yeah. Yeah. No, I'm gonna. Don't worry. I think I have it. No. Gonna transfer in a second. All right. So. Okay. So. L'chaim. You know, hook me up with a l'chaim. A little l'chaim. That's a good time. Chaim, l'chaim. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam v'barei. So I was just Mendel and I were just at a shiva. We were just at a shiva right before we came to daven. We were at a shiva, and I didn't think they would understand the story, so I didn't share it there. Share a different thought, but this was if this was the story which I would have liked to share over there. So the story takes us back around. Oh, I'll tell you exactly how. I used to go every week. If one of the stops I would go was over here on Dixie Highway to Sun's Auto. You know Sun's Auto over here on Dixie Highway? Right over here, huh? Jerome's place, exactly. At the time, Sun's. So at the time, there was a guy he had working there. His name was Jerry Marks. Jerry was he was the insurance adjuster. He was an in-house insurance adjuster. People car gets into an accident, they would have you would assess. And Jerry told me that he was diagnosed with a terrible disease, cancer. And one day Jerry's not there. Let me tell you, I always asked Jerry to put on tefillin. And he would always tell me, Rabbi, I love you, but I'm not religious. And refused to put on tefillin. Now Jerry's not there this Friday. And his brother Freddie is there. And he tells me, Rabbi, Jerry's dying. The doctors told him to go home, spend your last week or two at home. So he went home, and I told Freddie, I said, Freddie, we gotta make sure we have all the proper arrangements. And he says, maybe I could, maybe now Jerry would want to put on tefillin. And he says, listen, I'll ask my brother. We'll see what he says. He asks his brother, and Jerry agreed. So he gave Jerry my number. And I remember it was Sunday morning. I was driving from Hallandale Beach Boulevard. I made a left onto US 1 when I got the call, meaning I was going south on US 1. Now, between you and me, I was heading to Marshall's to see if I could find a good deal on shirts. I was with Leah in the car. Leah was pregnant with Mendel. I remember, it was 16 years ago. And it was Mendel. I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why in a minute. And when it happened, and he called me. He said, Rabbi, I need you. I'm happy you asked. I'm happy Freddie you gave Freddie my number. I want you. I need to speak to you. So I said, sure. When you want me to come by? he said, I need to speak to you, and it has to be taken. I need to make arrangements with you. And so I said, listen, Jerry, I'm able to come now if it's okay with you. I still have my blinker on. I remember I was in the turning lane to go into Marshall's, and I said, if it's okay with you, it's okay with you. He said, listen. He said, Rabbi, I would love for you to come now, but my grandchildren are home, and they're not Jewish, and also I'm in pajamas. So I said, listen, Jerry, I'm not afraid of pajamas, and I'm sure you're not afraid of your grandchildren. If it's okay with you, it's okay with me, and I'll come. And we right away, we went to Jerry, went to his home. He lived on like 80 something off of the same, get the name of the area. It's 80, 80s, huh? We went over to his home, and anyway, we went to his home, and Leah came in with me, and that's how I remember that there was pregnant Mendel, because when you're pregnant, so every smell is times 10. You smell something, it's times 10. And he had a lot of cats in his house, whatever. So Leah almost vomited when she went in there. And also, he was sick. He wasn't able to take care of everything, and his wife was sick as well. And so Jerry tells me, Rabbi, he says, are you going to officiate at my funeral? I said, let's make sure we're going to have a proper kosher funeral, and then we'll take care of everything. God's willing, it's not going to be for a long time. He says, I need you to promise me two things. He said, first of all, I need you to speak up loud, because my mother is old. She was in her 90s. She's hard of hearing, and I need you to speak loud and clear so that my mother could hear at the funeral. Yeah, I'll try. So the next thing he says, I want to know if I want to know if you'll bury me with. I have two pictures I need to be buried with. Show me two pictures. He says one is of his bar mitzvah that he never had. He was kicked out of Hebrew school and he never had his bar mitzvah. But he had a picture. He had the photo up for his bar mitzvah in his scarf. And he said that when he comes upstairs, he wants them to know that he was going to have his bar mitzvah. They kicked him out of Hebrew school, and that's why he didn't have his bar mitzvah. And so he wants me to bury him with the picture of his bar mitzvah. And the other one is he wants me to bury him with a picture of his rabbi. Okay? So I said, sure. He says, come, I'll show you the pictures. So he showed me a picture of his bar mitzvah, and then he showed me a picture of his rabbi. I said, cool. That's also my rabbi. It was a picture of the Rebbe. He says, no way. He says, that's your rabbi? I said, yeah, that's my rabbi. It's everybody's rabbi. It's a picture of the Rebbe. I said, that's everybody's rabbi. He says, no kidding. He says, he's like a famous rabbi? I said, is he a famous rabbi? I said, he's the Rebbe. He said, everybody knows the Rebbe. He says, I'm from Brooklyn. He's from Bensonhurst. But what happened was, because he was kicked out of Hebrew school and he wound up going off the wrong path, he got involved with the daughter of the Italian mob, the Godfather's daughter. He says she was so pretty, and he got involved with her. And so he was involved in the Italian community. He was he never continued with the Jewish community. And anyway, he says that what happens is, he says he has a picture of his rabbi, and whenever he's in pain, he's in a lot of pain. He would suffer a lot from the pain from the cancer. And whenever he's in pain, he would look at the picture of his rabbi, and he would feel better. This is what he told me. And so that's why he wants to be buried with the picture, because he feels that his rabbi is going to look after him after he goes. He's afraid of dying. And I said, sure, no problem. Let's put on tefillin. Let's have our mitzvah. I told him, even though you said you didn't have a mitzvah, we're going to have a mitzvah right now. He agreed to have his bar mitzvah. We put on tefillin. And it was, Leah could tell you, Leah was there. He was crying through every word of the Shema. He was like literally like his last prayer. He was every tear was. And after he said the Shema, and after he took off his tefillin, I asked him. I said, Jerry, tell me where'd you get the picture of this rabbi? And I told him my bar mitzvah was by the rabbi. I have a picture of my bar mitzvah by the Rebbe. And he tells me he's at a flower shop on Collins Avenue. I don't remember what it's called. Anthony's flower shop. Flower shop. Tony's Anthony's. I don't remember. No, no flowers. It's a beautiful flower shop. It's an amazing flower shop. And he the picture was behind the counter. Looking at him. And he was good friends with them, and so he would marvel at the picture. So they offered him the picture, and he was so happy to have it, and he showed me where he keeps it. He kept it in his room on top of his television set. This way he would always look. He was watching television a lot. He would always look at the picture of the Rebbe. Then he started telling me that, you think Hitler caused the Holocaust? He says, it was me. It was my fault. He's saying about himself. He says, I love my wife, but I married out. Now my children are, you think Hitler got rid of you? He said, I caused my own children not to be Jewish, and my grandchildren. He started crying. So Jerry, what was. Let's move forward. And we spoke, and I asked him, Jerry, would you agree? We have groups at Crop High School. Every week we have a group that puts on tefillin. I said, would you agree if I bring some of the kids? You're preaching to the choir. I said, would you agree if I bring some of them here and you tell them casually? You tell them this. This way they remember this. And he said, sure. And so I would ask them to come with me to put on tefillin with Jerry. They would. I could tell you some names. I'm not gonna say it. From Prop High School, guys would come. They would come with me, and we would put on tefillin. One of the boys, was one of them. Yeah. One of the boys later told me that he was on the way up the stairs of the church to get married in Argentina, I think it was. And he had the story in his mind going over and over. And he ran away. A couple of years later, I had the merit of doing his wedding, a beautiful Jewish girl. And a year later, more than a year later, I had the merit of officiating at the bris of his son. There were other boys, unfortunately, that didn't listen yet. But I'm sure his impact is that he had from those 30 minutes. Anyway, let's fast forward a couple of years. We have Bar Mitzvah right out here in the backyard. We have Bar Mitzvah. It was Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur time. We had this beautiful tent we put up. Chandelier was actually beautiful. We have put a floor out. Who remembers? Remember the tent we had over here for Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur a couple of years ago? Mendel. remember? You remember with the floor and the chandelier? Your yarmulke got stuck in the fan. Oh, no, in the fan. Fan, he said. There were ACs. We had these ACs. These big ACs we had in there. Anyway, so we have this bar mitzvah. It was Rosh Hashanah Kippur. I remember it was around that time. We had bar mitzvah over there. The bar mitzvah was of Daniel Simon. You know Daniel? He was just here this past Friday night, together with his brother Stephen. Daniel, he's a football player. No, the other brother's a bouncer. No, Eric is a bouncer. Daniel also does bouncing? It could be. He works with his brother. His brother's the youngest one. Eric has a bouncing company. No, he's going for NFL. He's drafted. He's drafted. He's giving me front seat tickets if they ever play again. No, he's got backseat tickets. The whole shul, we have backseat tickets. We have so it's Daniel's bar mitzvah. Football player. It's Daniel's bar mitzvah over here. And they're setting up these most gorgeous, stunning flowers. And I say, Daniel's mother, myself, where'd you get these flowers from? They're really gorgeous. And they have these, they started using on those, remember the beads they use, those water beads? Or beads, right? So they just came out then. They just started using them. I've never seen it. It was really, really cool the way they had everything set up. And she has my sister, she has a flower shop on Collins Avenue. I said, flower shop on Collins Avenue. I didn't even think of the name. Right away, I remembered the story. Her sister Linda, Marcel's sister Linda, has this flower shop on Collins Avenue. Anyway, there's another whole story to it. But tonight is the last night of Linda's Shiva. The Shiva for Linda. So, I want to say L'chaim. We were just at the Shiva, Mendel and I were just at the Shiva. And L'chaim. I still have it now. L'chaim. Linda Rivka Bas Shoshana and Neshama should have an aliyah. The story, a lot of different parts. There's a lot of different. The story continues. Huh? I didn't tell them the story. There's a lot of different parts of the story. Not everything could we say in public, but one of the things that Leah says we can learn from the story is that you see someone. This is after Gimel Tamuz. After we're not seeing the Rebbe physically with our own eyes, and it's already several years after, 16 years, so it's 10 years after, and we see the Rebbe's impact. How this person who never met the Rebbe, who had no idea what a Rebbe is, 16 years ago, yeah, and but he knew that that's his rabbi. He knew that the Rebbe is his Rebbe. And so we have to remember, so many more stories we could share, but we just wanted to bring out the point how the Rebbe is really the Rebbe of the world, of each, not just of the world, but of each individual in the world. So let's tune into the national program or international program, and then we'll continue with our own Farbrengen. If I can figure out how to do this.
The story of the Rebbe's life parallels the story of Judaism in the 20th century. He was born in Tsarist Russia at the turn of the century, a descendant of the first Rebbes of Chabad. He survived the murderous pogroms that swept through Tsarist Russia in the early 1900s. As the Communist Revolution began to take root and power was seized by the Bolsheviks, he watched his parents walk the halls of power, fighting for the rights of Jews and Judaism. As a teenager during World War I, his home was a center of relief efforts for the tens of thousands of Jewish refugees who flooded their city. In his 20s, he met and studied with the Torah giants of his times. He married the daughter of the 6th Lubavitcher Rebbe in a wedding attended by Jewish leaders from far and near. Living in Berlin during Hitler's rise to power, he witnessed firsthand a modern society turning against the Jews within it. He left Paris only days ahead of the Nazi advance into the city, then crossed the Atlantic on one of the last civilian vessels to leave war-locked Europe. When he arrived, his father-in-law placed him at the helm of Lubavitch's newly founded educational, social, and publishing departments. As the center of world Jewry shifted to the United States, he became the leader of the Lubavitch Hasidic movement. At the time, his strategy was considered risky, even dangerous. He taught his followers, in addition to focusing inward on improving themselves, to bring Judaism outward, pioneering the concept of modern Jewish outreach. As hundreds of thousands of Jewish pioneers moved to the Holy Land, he engaged and corresponded with their leaders. During peace and conflict, he embraced the people and the land of Israel. In evolving attitudes and trends, he managed to identify a yearning for something higher, endeavoring to quench the thirst with increased spirituality and morality. Under the noses of brutal dictators, he ran a network of clandestine operatives. As Jews began to enjoy a freedom unseen in hundreds, perhaps thousands of years, he proclaimed that moral people must be a light unto their neighbors, promoting the 7 universal laws for all of humanity. In a century which saw more scientific advances than thousands of years before it, he embraced what others shunned, encouraging that technology be used in the service of its creator. As travel and communication made the world smaller, he inspired thousands to reach out to their brethren in love, as they had once been chased down in hatred. The Rebbe spoke precious little about himself, so his life has never been properly documented. Rather, it is impressed on the hearts and minds of those who encountered him through the years. After his passing in 1994, the story of his life continues through the countless lives he has touched and inspired.
It is my honor to welcome you to the event marking and commemorating the 26th yahrzeit of our revered and beloved Rebbe. The event, Transform and Transcend, for the Rebbe has taught us how to transform and better our lives and to transcend all challenges. Gimel Tamuz is a time when Chassidim make a cheshbon hanefesh, when we make a soul accounting of our connection to the Rebbe, how we are incorporating in our lives the teachings, directives, and way of life of our dear Rebbe, and incorporating it into our own lives. We hope that you will be inspired to take resolutions to better your lives, to a greater commitment to learning Torah and doing mitzvahs. That it will transform not only yourselves, but your communities and the world around you. It is my privilege to thank Senator Joseph Lieberman, Rabbi Y.Y. Jacobson, and Mrs. Sivan Rahav-Meir for taking of their time to share reflections on the Rebbe. I would also like to express appreciation to Ellie Marcus and Benny Friedman for the beautiful musical interludes which you will hear during the program. It is my privilege to introduce to you Rabbi Ari Weinstein, Shliach to Yardley, Pennsylvania, who will be the master of ceremonies of this event. May the Almighty bless each and every one of you with all of the blessings of peace, health, happiness, and prosperity, continued growth in your personal lives and in your communal lives. And may we merit speedily in our days the fulfillment of all of our heart's desires with the coming of Mashiach Tzidkenu, by preparing ourselves and the world for his immediate coming.
Thank you, Rabbi Kotlarski, for making this program available to hundreds of communities around the world. And thank you for your tireless efforts on behalf of the Shluchim around the world to ensure that we always have the support that we need. This program, our program today, is a very significant program filled with tremendous inspiration from very special guests, speakers, and videos. Transform and transcend. In the Rebbe's very first Farbrengen as Rebbe in 1951, when he accepted the leadership and to fill the seat of his father-in-law a year after his passing, he shared something very insightful. He shared that even though we now have a leader, we now have a Rebbe, we should not stick our hands in our pockets and think, oh, now we have a leader. Everything is fine. We can sit back and relax. He said, no, please know, he shared with us that every single one of us has an obligation to step up and do everything that we can and must do as expected by God who put us here. And the reason for this is because we were put into a physical world, into an environment where the presence of the divine is naturally hidden. It's unseen. And it is our mission as human beings in this world to reveal in this environment that, in fact, behind it all is the divine, is the presence of God. And that requires transforming the world we live in. It requires transforming ourselves. And there's only one way that a person can transform themselves. And that is if we do it on our own. Because others may be able to carry us, but if they do, there will be no transformation. Transformation needs to be done by ourselves. And therefore the Rebbe said, as a Rebbe infuses us with energy, with faith, with inspiration, with guidance, with instruction, as Rebbe has done and continues to do. And we have to do our part so that the transformation actually takes place. And when there is transformation, and we all step up to create transformation, we create a collective transcendence, bringing the world to where we really need to bring it, to the ultimate experience of the revelation of God in the world, and that is with the coming of Mashiach. We're going to begin with a brief video with the Rebbe speaking at that very first Farbrengen in 1951. And following that, we are going to hear from our first guest, an individual who sanctified God's name throughout the United States when he was a vice presidential candidate, observing Shabbos before the entire country, showing that one can live by godly values while being integrated in activity in our world. Senator Joseph Lieberman.
A few hundred people had gathered in a brick home on Eastern Parkway in Brooklyn. Every person there had lost 6 million brothers and sisters only a few years prior. But that night, the world the Rebbe saw was a beautiful one, a delightful garden.
Dr. Avdruf Meder Shraba Fanort as Legan in Ksifkan. Nowadays steht Legani Lignuni. Das ist Lemokim Shohoya Yikre Batchilo. Waremike Schino ist Betachtenum Haus.
As he delivered his first formal Hasidic discourse as Rebbe, he laid out a sweeping plan to reveal that this world is beautiful and good, but it would take grit and determination.
Avram Avinu's Mesiras Nefesh, das gewähnt bei Mayinim bei der Chagar. Hat gewusst, dass der Wede darf sein, Vayikra schon Beshem Hawaii, Keleilom. Altikra Vayikra, Ele Vayakri, als andere sollen an ihm schreien. Bemele ist gegangen in Lavidose. Hat gemacht bei der Chagar Vayinim von Mesiras Nefesh, hat sich nicht gefällt.
Well, I'm honored to be asked to participate in this yurtzeit of the Lubavitcher Rebbe of blessed memory. I thank particularly Rabbi Yisrael Darren, who invited me to do so. In one of Rabbi Tolushkin's books, he tells of a woman he knows who says that on the yurtzeit of a loved one of hers, she feels that loved one's spirit is with her all that day of the yurtzeit. In the case of the Rebbe, his spirit is with us every day. He left us with an extraordinary body of learning and teaching, which Chabad and the Shluchim convey throughout the world and online every day. But he also left us the extraordinary model of his own life. He lived a righteous life. He was, very Jewish, of course, but he was very worldly. And he was aware of everything happening in the world, in science, technology, culture, even politics. And he brought the light of Torah to bear on all of those various aspects of life. And in doing so, I think he helped to reach out to Jews who he was trying to bring into more involvement in Judaism, and also to non-Jews who respected his holiness, his awareness of the world around him, and the wisdom, the advice that he would give to them. Those are all lessons for us. Sometimes in our time, when people have become more religious, they become more withdrawn and insular. That's not the Rebbe's message, as the Shluchim know, who are all over the world. The Rebbe's message is to go out and ufaratsta, and bring the light of Torah Judaism to people, and to remember this brilliant wisdom of the Rebbe's, which is when you're trying to bring Jews into more observance, do it with a smile and a kind of sweetness. And do it step by step, mitzvah by mitzvah. So you're not chastising somebody for not being as frum, as religious as you would hope they would be, but you're going to give them an idea about what is the next mitzvah that they might think about doing, and then another. And whatever the mitzvah is, whether it's putting on tefillin, lighting candles, making challah, doing Havdalah, etc., doing tzedakah, giving tzedakah. So the Rebbe left us with a tremendous legacy that inspires us every day. We, most of us, Orthodox Jews, to the surprise sometimes of non-Jews, believe in the next world, in Olam Haba. And we also believe that by our deeds, we can help the neshama, the soul of the departed, rise higher. But there's another aspect to this, I think, which is that we have the capacity in our own lives to continue here on earth the life of the person who's departed by living the kind of life that person would want us to. And the Rebbe left us with such clear instructions about that, which the Shluchim carry on magnificently throughout the world in education and outreach, and helping in running synagogues and providing kosher food, and organizing childcare centers, Chabad houses on campus, friendship circles, really remarkable service to the Jewish community and to the world. And in that sense, you not only keep the Rebbe alive here on Olam Hazeh, this earth, but really carry on the work, which is what he most wanted to do. It's a remarkable tribute to the Rebbe that in the years since he left, or his neshama, his soul left earth, there's been such remarkable growth in Chabad. That's the greatest tribute we could pay him. I will tell you that I had the honor to visit the Rebbe first in the 1960s at a Farbrengen in Crown Heights, and of course I became a convert, as it were. One of the Hasidim, one of the Rebbe's Hasidim, and I had the chance to correspond with him, to meet with him, to go to him on special occasions in my life to ask for advice or a bracha. On the way to my swearing in as a senator at the beginning of January 1989, I went with my entire family on a Sunday afternoon. The Rebbe was gracious to us, wise, just had a word for every member of my family that mysteriously, magically fit that person. Hadassah and I, my wife and I, had just become the proud parents in March of the previous year of our daughter Chana Rachel. And I introduced her to the Rebbe and told her how excited we were about her birth. And the Rebbe turned to me, but really to Hadassah, and said, "Don't be satisfied." So I say to all my friends in Chabad and all the shluchim particularly, thank you for everything you've done to keep the light of the Rebbe's neshama and learning alive throughout the world. Thank you for what you will continue to do. But remember, on this day of the Rebbe's Yurtzeit, never be satisfied until we go from transforming to transcending. Then maybe you can take a day off that's not Shabbat and one of the Chagim. Thank you for allowing me to participate. I send every good wish from Hadassah and me to every one of you. Thank you.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It's a pleasure to be here together with you. My name is Eli Marcus, together with Benny Friedman. I'd like to share with you a couple of nigunim which the Rebbe taught over the years. We'll begin with actually the first nigun that the Rebbe taught. It's called Samalacha Nafshi. The words of David HaMelech in Tehillim. That our soul has an unquenchable thirst for Hashem, for godliness and holiness.
nafshi koma lecha besori b'eretz yovev b'limoim Yamam, amam, 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 oh, ilado, amam, oh, yamam, amam, yamam, amam, oh, ilado, amam, oh. Came back kodesh chazi sicho lirois uscha uchvoidecho we came back kodesh chazi sicho lirois וכבוינךו אוי קיים בקוידש חווזיסיכו לירויס וצחו וכבוינךו Yamamamam, yamamamam, oy lara, amamam, oh, amamamam, amamamam, oy lara, amamam.
This nigun, Ato V'chartanu, talks about the special relationship we each have with Hashem, how He chose us each individually. And the Rebbe explained the nigun has two parts. The first part, very smooth and easy, describing the experience of the tzaddik, whose relationship with Hashem is smooth with no bumps. And the second part, where the words repeat themselves over and over, that's the experience of the Baal Tshuva, whose relationship with Hashem is a little bumpier and a little less smooth. Both very, very beautiful relationships. Ata v'chartanu.
Hoyato b'chartonu mikol ha'amim Ohaveto isonu v'ratziso bonu V'roim amtonu mikol ha'shonos V'kidashtonu b'mitzvosecho V'keiravtonu malkeinu la'avodosecho V'v'shimecho ha'gadoil v'ha'kodosh Aleinu koroso
Hey, Ato v'chartanu mikol ha'amim Ohavto isonu v'rotziso bonu V'roim amtonu mikol ha'shonos V'kidashtonu b'mitzvosecho V'keiravtonu malkeinu la'avodosecho Oy v'shimcho ha'gadoil v'ha'kodosh Oleinu koroso
Hey, Ato v'chartanu mikol ha'amim Ohaveto isonu v'rotziso bonu Ohaveto isonu v'rotziso bonu
V'roim amtonu mikol ha'shonos V'kidashtonu b'mitzvosecho V'roim amtonu mikol ha'shonos V'kidashtonu b'mitzvosecho
V'keiravtonu malkeinu la'avodosecho V'keiravtonu malkeinu la'avodosecho
V'shimcho ha'gadoil v'ha'kodosh Aleinu koroso V'shimcho ha'gadoil v'ha'kodosh Aleinu koroso Ay 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 la 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 la
Ato v'chartanu mikol ha'amim
I have today signed an executive order providing for the establishment of a Peace Corps on a temporary pilot basis. I'm also sending to Congress a message proposing authorization of a permanent Peace Corps. This corps will be a pool of trained men and women sent overseas by the United States government or through private institutions and organizations to help foreign countries meet their urgent needs for skilled manpower.
Dossi was a gewähne Idee in Zeitung Nächten, der Heint und Nächten, als der Sar Hamedine tut gekommen in der Meschel Hamedine, hat mit dir gewähnt. als wir gehen zusammenstellen, a ganze Kwutze, wo sie Linien nicht sein, als sie und das weglassen, mir jagt Arzecho, mir Ladetecho, mir Beiser Vicho, und wegfahren in a fremden Nord, und in a Sami Nord, was nicht entwickelt. Und auch dort wird davon helfen, jene sich wegstellen und entwickeln sich und helfen sie aufbauen, sehr Seder Achayim Kidiboi.
Boarding my first flight from New York to Accra, handing my ticket at the gate, the officer looks me up and down and he goes, "Are you sure you're going to Ghana?" I said, "Yeah, I'm going to Ghana." It was at that moment that I realized that you don't come to Ghana unless you have a real reason. Whether you're an aid worker coming to help the local population, a businessman looking for business, or the Rebbe Shluchim who is searching for diamonds in Africa. Living in Ghana comes with many difficulties, both physical and spiritual. You wake up in the morning and there's no shul to go to, just you by yourself. Davening shachris. It's you by yourself trying to give your kids the same inspiration that you felt. You know, I grew up in Crown Heights at the Rebbe's feet, and you could feel their energy in the air. Davening every Shabbos in 770 with the Rebbe, and now I'm living in Ghana by myself, and we have to teach our kids and make them feel that same excitement, that same warmth towards the Rebbe, towards Yiddishkeit, towards Chassidishkeit that we had.
Ich war ein paar Jahre Zeit, als wir mit den Daten haben, vor zu Aiden, was nicht nur ein Feld, nur weiß auch viele nicht auf dem Feld, und sei dort nach Tag, eine Woche, ein Chedesh, ein Jahr, 10 Jahre, der Rebbe steht und Schleißer Leid, Tomo, und wie viele Jahre mit Daten haben, Farbrengen wird die dort geben, und von deinen Jahren wird gar nicht mitfällt.
The Rebbe compares Shluchim to a lighthouse, that just by living there, they illuminate their entire surroundings. And this means so much more when you're talking about Africa, where the darkness is so thick and the loneliness is so deep. And a Jewish person can tell himself, who's going to remember me here? And we were lucky enough to see this lighthouse in action, that in the most unexpected time, the most random place, a spark, a Yiddish neshama was ignited.
People were connecting here. Some were more observant, less observant, not observant at all, but they all knew that they had a Jewish neshama. When you're here, you're Jewish. In a very interesting way, being apart from where we're used to and we're here allows us to focus on that spark, on that Jewish spark.
Und außerdem muss ich wissen, was Gehalt mitzugeben, und was dort essen, und was dort trinken. Eine Sache, was ich betuach, als sie gehen nach hinten, die Schlichusse von Mokim, wo der Rebestor hat sich hereingegeben, sein Navas Hashem, mein Navas Yisroel.
I live in Bucks County, Pennsylvania. That is a suburb of Philadelphia. And in the 20th century, one of the more well-known Jewish personalities living in Philadelphia was the famous Jewish author Chaim Potok. Chaim Potok once attended a Farbrengen, a Hasidic gathering of the Rebbe. And the Rebbe gave a talk at that Farbrengen, which seemed to be directed in part to Chaim Potok, in which the Rebbe discussed how when God gives an individual a talent, whether that talent be writing, where they write and their articles or their books are read by many, many people, it is given to them with a divine purpose. And that divine purpose is so that they use the talent to make their readers and those who their talent can reach out to more aware of the truth of our world, that there is a divine presence in everything that is going on. This is a profound message that the Rebbe repeated often through his many years of leadership, And this is a message that speaks to every single one of us. Every single human being is endowed with gifts, with talents, with skills, which is what makes us unique. And we have to look at ourselves and ask ourselves, are we taking the gifts that God has given me, the gifts that God has endowed me with, and am I using them for the purpose which God has given it to me? Our second guest, a very special woman, Sivan Rahav-Meir, who is a media personality and lecturer in Israel and abroad, and she was voted by Globe's newspaper as the most popular female media personality in Israel, and by the Jerusalem Post as one of the 50 most influential Jews in the world. She is a woman who represents the idea of taking gifts that have been given to her and using them to spread the awareness of God. This wasn't the environment she was raised in, but as she developed, she came to this on her own, and she has begun to dedicate her life to use the gifts God has given her to spread the awareness of God in the world.
Shalom from Israel. It's Sivan Rahav-Meir. Shalom Me'eretz Israel. We think about you wherever you are. We pray for you. We're with you. Gimel Tamuz, such a loss, such a mission, such a project. We should all end. We should all finish and reach Geula Shlema until we reach final redemption here in this world. I want to share 3 stories. I collect, by the way, beautiful stories I hear. I think one day we'll open a Jewish coronavirus museum. So many stories about our Mesirut Nefesh, self-devotion. So many stories about solidarity, partnership, special prayers, special holidays. I think we should remember those moments and cherish them. I want to share 3 stories, and the first one is from New York. Afterwards, a story from Ukraine, and the last story is from UK, Britain. What happened in New York this Pesach, this Seder night, was very rare and very sad. People were sitting all alone, all by themselves during Leila Seder. A widow from New York realized she can't be with her grandchildren. Nobody can be with her, even her kids. Nobody can come. So she thought, okay, what else can I do? I will have to do it all by myself. Her neighbor told her, I will open the door and you will hear our Seder night. You will be able to participate in a way, to feel you belong, you're part of that celebration of Yetziat Mitzrayim. She agreed, obviously, and she thought, okay, he'll just open the door. The next day, it was already Chol HaMoed, one day after the first Chag, the first holiday of Pesach, her son calls her, the widow, and he says, Mommy, how was your Seder night? And she says, it was the best Seder I had since your father passed away. Why? Since that neighbor, everything he did was exactly like we do. All the nigunim, the customs, the nuances, the special things we do, the way we celebrate, all the things he did, it was like, like he did copy paste. It was like my personal family version of the Seder. Her son says, Mommy, now I understand. This neighbor called me a week ago and he asked me to record our nusach of the Seder. He asked me to record the way we do it. He said he learned it by heart. Think about it. The whole world in such a crisis is facing such a challenge. I guess that neighbor had other things to do, but that's what he did. He learned it by heart in order to make that widow happier. And obviously, it worked. I think that story, that beautiful story, I know the family. It's true. It's not a legend. I think that story shows us something about chesed, about creative chesed. I think that's exactly what the Lubavitcher Rebbe, Rabbi Miluvavitch, taught us all. You don't have to do chesed, like a robot, like in an automatic way. Okay, I have to give tzedakah, to give, charity, to donate some money. Okay, I will open the door. I guess a widow, the neighbor is miserable this year. Let's open the door and she will hear us and listen to our Seder. No, you should think about the needs, but exactly in a creative way, think exactly about what they need and find a way to solve their own problems. I think this story By the way, I posted it here in Israel, and Baruch Hashem, so many people reached out to me and talked to me and wrote. I found that story as an inspiration to other acts of creative chesed. Remember that phrase, creative chesed. That's what we need right now, to help each other with real devotion. That's the first story, and I think if we collect those stories, Hashem also watches us. He sees us when we do those acts of kindness, and I think obviously that's the way we should choose. That's the path. That's the right way during that awful crisis. So if we think about the mission the Rebbe left, to all of us, the task, okay, what we should all take upon us, the reach at the end of the day, fix, correct, bring the world into a new phase. That's exactly the way to reach that new stage. Creative chesed. Look around you. It's so simple. Sometimes it means just find that son, call him and record the Seder night. Find your own way to do such a chesed. The second story, as I said, comes from a different continent, Ukraine. Chaya Wolf, friend of mine, I'm proud to say a friend of mine, Chabad Shlicha in Odessa, Ukraine, told me before Shavuot, she's quite frustrated. They realize they can't invite the kids to listen to Aseret HaDibrot, to the 10 Commandments. Why? Obviously, here in Israel, by the way, the situation is better, but still, you hardly see kids running around inside the synagogues, inside the shuls. It's still, we still have all those restrictions. So in Ukraine, too, they can't invite the kids into the shuls to listen to Aseret HaDibrot. One of the things we all come to do it, but it's considered a mivtza, a special project in Chabad movement. So she realized they should build a new, huge synagogue outside of their shul, of their Chabad house. It's like on the street, on the sideway, the pavement, and build something just for the holiday, and invite the kids. And there they can be, keep all the restrictions and the laws and social distance, and they can stand there, listen to the 10 Commandments. So important to receive the Torah once again during the Chag of Shavuot. So they did it. They built those new synagogues. And what happened was, and that's why she was so frustrated, 2 of the Jews there reached out to her, approach. They came to her husband, Rav Avram Wolf, and they told him, they told the Wolfs, listen, we want to buy Arbaat Aminim. We want to buy the 4 species for Sukkot. Those 2 Jews say, you just build a sukkah. We understand it's the Chag of Sukkot right now. They were shocked. We are here for 20, 30 years in this city, working so hard with the Jews here. And at the end of the day, they have no idea. Is it the month of Sivan or is it the month of Tishrei? Tell me. If it's Sukkot, where were you during Rosh Hashanah? Where were you during Yom Kippur? Are you sure it's Sukkot right now? How confused can you be? How unaffiliated can you be? And the answer is, I heard the story and I told them, Avram, Chaya, that story is beautiful. Think about it. Those Jews, they know what Sukkot is all about just because of you. They see something made out of wood and they think about the Chag. They think about something holy, about a holy day. And they want to be a part of it. They want to participate. They want to be involved. And yeah, they're confused. The mission is huge. And we still have a lot of work that should be done. Yeah, we should teach them that it's Shavuot now and it's not Sukkot. I always think of those Jews. Now, thousands of Jews are watching that special program for Gimel Tamuz all over North America. But think about all the millions out there. They have no idea what is Gimel Tamuz. They don't know when is Aleph Tishrei. They know nothing. Think about it. Always think about it, because they're also part of our mutual project. We should do it together. It's not just Chesed. It's also Torah, Jewish knowledge, basic Jewish knowledge about their heritage, their identity. The third story, as I said, is from London. I spoke to a shaliach, one of the campuses, an anonymous shaliach. He's shy, doesn't want publicity. And he told me, and I think this sentence is significant. He told me, I am making the students into shlichim. I would say they switch. They're not passive students anymore. They become shlichim. Once again, because of that virus, they can't come to all the Shabbat meals, to my house, to Havdalah, to listen to Kiddush, Kriyat Torah, nothing. They should become active. Otherwise, there's nothing. So I teach them, we have Zoom, Baruch Hashem. I teach them, you will make Kiddush, you will read Kabbalat Shabbat, you will daven, you will pray the dorms, or some of them are now at their parents' house. You become a local shaliach. I think that disease, that virus, it makes us all shlichim. Shlichim in Hebrew, lishloach is to send. Our soul was sent here, and now we can't rely on, we are independent. We can't tell the local Rav, the local shaliach, okay, you'll take care of it. No, we will take care of it. It's us, with the kids, with the husband, the wife, the parents, the grandmother, the grandfather. It's us. We all have to become shlichim. That's part of the mission. I wish us all, I know people want to go, let's have our normal life back. No, that's not, I think, the bracha. That's not the right blessing, especially not on that holy day. No, the bracha should be, we don't want our normal life back. We want a new world. We want a better world. We want to improve ourselves and change everything in order to reach that final goal, final redemption. And then we will be able to meet all of you, all the Jews out there listening to us all over the world, to see you here in Eretz Israel. Toda rabba, refuah shlema, besorot tovot.
1938, Germany made the Anschluss with Austria. יימח שמו, Hitler came to visit Austria, and we were living very close to a very famous square, Praterstern. His motorcade passed by, and we were downstairs, and I saw him then, and everybody raised their hands. As a little boy, I see everybody raising their hands. I also did. My sister was standing next to me, gave me a slap on my shoulder, which I feel till today. Then my sisters and brothers left for England. I was alone with my parents. And again, Hitler came to visit Austria, and again he passed by, and again we were downstairs, but this time I did not raise my hand. Raus, come out. My mother opens the door, and there were two SS standing there, and they tell her, come down to wash the streets. The streets are dirty. Then we looked down from the window, and there were tens and tens of Jewish women downstairs on the sidewalk, scrubbing with little brushes the street. And all the non-Jewish people were standing around, making fun of them and laughing and enjoying this beautiful scene that these women had to do what they were doing. Am Yisrael was destroyed. I was living in Williamsburg. The people were finished. There's nothing left. The whole Chachamim, Tzaddikim of the Eastern Europe, no more. What's going to be? I remember it was terrible. The Rebbe took us, young boys, American boys. He took us under his wing. We were able to ask anything. We asked, and he gave us answers. And he gave us so much attention. And this is how we understood that the Rebbe is our Tate. He's our father. He understood that these were his children. And we felt that we were his children. We felt that the Rebbe was taking care of us. I was working in the Merkaz office for about a year, but I wasn't feeling satisfied that I was really doing something. I asked Rabbi Chadikov, give me something really to do, not just to write receipts and to look at the Sefarim and this and that. He said, the Rebbe sent you to work here? Ask him. So I asked him. The Rebbe should give me some suggestions as to what to be done. I received an answer from the Rebbe, 3 words. Shehu yitein hatzot. Translated, that he, meaning me, I should give suggestions. From this I understood. The Rebbe asked not what the Rebbe wants that you should do. We never told any of our children to go on shlichus. We showed the example. My son in Russia, my daughter in Hungary, in all different places where they are doing that which Hitler wanted to destroy. It is the greatest happiness that a person can have. This is the biggest miracle that could be. I feel that the Rebbe brought down a miracle to this world, to take a little American boy, make him a shliach, and to not only him, but to be able to push it further even to the other generations. This is something which is a miracle.
Shamil was a military leader in the region, in the Caucasian mountains, in a place called Dagestan. It was an independent place, and Shamil was the king, was the boss. And they were defending their homeland from the Imperial Russian army. And through some trickery, the Russians convinced Shamil to come off his mountaintop fortress and come down to them, and they captured him and they sent him into exile. And when the Rebbe taught this nigun, the Rebbe said Shamil composed this nigun when he was in exile, remembering his exalted station that he used to enjoy. And now he finds himself in a lowly exile, but he's hopeful that someday soon he will return to his mountaintop kingdom. And that's a mashal for the neshama, for the soul. The soul used to enjoy all the godly light in heaven, and then it comes down into an exile, into this place, into this world. But it is hopeful that very soon the whole world will be filled with godly light, and the soul will once again enjoy being in a place where she belongs. My grandfather, Reb Shalom Gordon Olav Shalom, says he remembers when the Rebbe taught this nigun and said this story, he remembers thinking to himself that the nimshal, the possibility of Mashiach coming, was so much easier to imagine than the possibility that the Russian government, the Soviet Union, would ever relinquish control over the territories that it had captured. And yet, soon thereafter, the Soviet Union disappeared in a very short while. And we are confident that in the blink of an eye, Mashiach will be here, and the soul will enjoy a world that is filled with Hashem's light. Nigun Shamil.
Yira, 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 mo yira, yira, ah, ya, yo. Yira, ya, ma, yo, yo. Yira, 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 mo yira, yira, ah, ya, yo. Yira, ya, ma, yo, yo. Yo, 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 ma, ma, la, ra, ra. Ah, ma, mo, yo, yo, do, yo, do. Ila da dam, ila da dam, ila da da. Oh, yo, ma, yo, oh, yo, ila da dam, ila da dam, ila da da. Yira, 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 oh, yira, yira, ah, ya, yo. Yira, yira, ma, yo, yo. Oh, yira, yira, oh, yira, yira, ah, ya, yo. Yira, yira, oh, baba, yo, yo. Ah, ya, ma, yira, yira, ma, 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 mo, yira. Yira, yira, ma, 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 mo, yira, yira, yira. Ma, 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 yira, yira. Ay da da da, oh, yididam, oh, yidam, oh, yo, yo, yido. Yida, yida, da, da, ay da da da, oh, yida, da, ma, yo. Yida, yida, oh, yeah, yo, yo. This next niggin is called Rachamana. Comes from the Slichas prayer that we say in the days leading up to Rosh Hashanah. This niggin was composed by the Rebbe's grandfather, Rahav-Meir Shlomi Yanovsky, who was the Rav of Nikolaev. Rachamono de yonei lani oive aneino. Rachamono de yonei lani oive aneino. Rachamono de yonei lani oive yaneino. Oh, rachamono de yonei lani oive yaneino. Rachamono Ideyonei Nisvirei libo Yomovo Yaneino Oh Yaneino Rachamono Deyonei Nisvirei libo Oh Yaneino Yaneino Rachamono de yonei lani oive aneino. 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 Rachamono de yonei lisvirei libo Oh yaneino yaneino. Rachamono de yonei lisvirei libo Oh yaneino yaneino.
A message that the Rebbe repeated quite often. to his Hasidim and to everyone he met is do more. Do more, do more, do more. Because the Rebbe saw within every single person their divine soul. A divine soul is not a finite entity, it's an infinite entity. And whatever we are doing, we are capable of doing more. Rabbi Adin Steinsaltz, the well-known, world-renowned scholar, shares how he once asked the Rebbe which project to choose from with 3 projects that he had before him. He said each one of them is more than he can handle. Which one should he focus on? And the Rebbe said, in the Rebbe's classic fashion, do all 3. And the Rebbe gave him a bracha to be successful in all 3. Rabbi Steinsaltz explains in his understanding what the Rebbe meant when he said to do all 3, when Rabbi Steinsaltz had already expressed he can barely do 1. And he shares that in physics, there is an understanding that you can apply pressure to matter. But at some point, you reach a point where you can apply no more pressure. The matter can no longer handle any more pressure. And he explains that when you then place 100 times more pressure on that matter, something actually happens. The molecules collapse and the very nature of the object changes. It's a fascinating idea. And he expresses how this actually can be seen in astronomy with white dwarfs, which are essentially the outcome of enormous pressure, which then creates them to be an entity, a mass, which is very, very dense because their actual matter changes. And he said, this is what the Rebbe believed every single one of us needs to do. And he says, the Rebbe experimented, but he didn't experiment with us. He first experimented with himself. And then he inspired every single one of us to realize that as much as we can do, we can still do more. And when we are willing to step into that acceptance, we begin to realize that, in fact, we are attached to an infinite entity and therefore infinite possibility. In the following video, we're going to see how the Rebbe communicated this to numerous individuals. And following that, we are going to hear from our next guest. Our next guest is a most dynamic teacher and speaker, an immense scholar. He has lectured on 6 continents. At the age of 15, he began serving as the oral scribe at the Rebbe's Farbrengens, memorizing and transcribing the Rebbe's Hasidic gatherings where the Rebbe would talk for hours and hours on end. We'd like to welcome the well-known Rabbi Y.Y. Jacobson.
I have read your article in history. The Bible might bless and not to be satisfied. But this demands much more from everyone, including yourself and myself. I'm satisfied, but this success will make it double.
You taught us one thing, never to be satisfied, so we never will be. Just lead us and be well and healthy.
And don't let affect your health, but you're not satisfied.
That a human constitution is like an engine. If you overdo it, you can burn it up, but if you underdo it, it gets sluggish. So I try to work it to the best efficiency according to the way you told me many years ago.
Yeah, and God Almighty bless you to have more strength and to believe in you.
Helps us move from strength to strength. We help a lot of people. We help myself, including myself.
Yeah.
We helped in therapy, in family therapy. We helped in all the Jewish schools. And our Rabbi Wilson here has done a wonderful job.
Something that the help Anthony is brother wasn't able to do.
Demand from him twice as much, and he'll demand from you twice as much. And God Almighty will give you twice as much as His blessing. And especially to be successful with your Parnos Kashmir and your Parnos Ruchni. And the same thing about the Lord.
One of the buildings from the the new Chabad house in House. Rabbi Goldman, beautiful, and he's been very much responsible for it.
So God much bless you. Not to be satisfied by your own Chabad house, but you add the second dome and you can after that to third door. And to do all these things in good health and good parnos.
Ich wünsche, dass diese Warte vorsetzen, 27 Uhr, bei Rabbi ist gut, und ich habe heute nach ihrer Firma schon in diesem
Aber eben ist wirklich, ich sage, in der Karre der Feke. Ich gucke, wie kann du, was jeden Tag, aber dann sollten wir warten und lachen und machen. Und können wir dann die Woche. Aber da können wir noch mehr können. Und das hat das Wochen, hat die Kräbe machen noch mehr können.
Ich kann mir vertellen, dass
bei diesem Herzen zu Massach leben. Ich weiß zwar nicht, wenn ich es wieder habe, nur werden echt über 19 mit gleichen Ganzen. Mit riesigen Haaren.
And he said to me, "But I'm going to never miss a day." I'm proud to tell you, I've never missed a day. And I hope I'll never miss a day. My son is going to do
Ja.
Met dat alles zeg.
Huh?
Dat alles zo zeg.
Alles zeg. So use it in good health, in good prognosis, and use it also for the influencing all the people around you. את מדליקה בשבת. אז תראה שכל החברות שלו יעשו גם כן. And be a good influence on all the people around you. God will not bless you for being happy and for make happy with the Jews around you.
My dearest friends, the Lubavitcher Rebbe, Rabbi Menachem Mendel Schneerson of blessed memory, was one of those rare leaders who not only impacted and inspired a generation of Jews, but who also managed to alter the vocabulary of the Jewish language and, more importantly, the vocabulary of the Jewish psyche. The Rebbe interjected new words, new paradigms into our individual and collective vocabulary. Two of such words I will share with you presently. Number one, absolute mutual responsibility. For the Rebbe, the entity we call the Jewish people was not an abstract and transcendent concept on paper. It was a real and concrete reality. We are all brothers and sisters. We must not agree with each other, but we have to love each other, support each other, be here for each other, think about each other, and be dedicated to each other. He could not fathom the words of Cain, "Am I my brother's keeper?" The Rebbe embodied the words of Joseph, "I am searching for my brothers." Every single Jew living on the planet, the Rebbe taught, is connected to you and connected to me. We are an integrated, holistic, unified entity. We are limbs of a body. Think, love, cherish, respect, and be there for every single Jew alive. If there was a mikveh in Afghanistan that needed repair, the Rebbe felt responsible for the mikveh in Kabul. If Jews in India didn't have kosher food, he felt responsible. I once read a story by Rabbi Moshe Grilik. He was the longtime editor of the Israeli newspaper Yated Ne'eman, which makes his story very reliable and objective. And he writes he was in Brazil. In Brazil at the time, the community was weaker. The infrastructure of Judaism was not as powerful as it is today, thank God, but they had 2 Jewish schools. And they decided, because of financial considerations, they're going to merge the schools. The principal of one of the schools was a Chabadnik. So they wanted him to take over both schools because he was a great pedagogue and very skilled educator, and everyone loved him. He said to them, listen, I was sent here by the Rebbe. I have to consult with him. He consulted the Rebbe, and the Rebbe said he believes that the 2 schools should not merge. So the principal came back to them and he said, listen, you do whatever you got to do, but I'm a follower of the Rebbe. The Rebbe said not to merge the schools, so therefore I can't be part of this. If you want to fire me, fire me. But they loved him so much, so they kept both schools open, but they were quite upset. They couldn't understand, why would the Rebbe want to keep 2 schools open, which was a tremendous financial burden on the community. Simply the overhead of 2 schools was so draining. A year later, this man came to New York, and he went to visit the Rebbe. And he asked the Rebbe permission if he can ask a question. And he said, the board of directors of both schools are pretty upset. They're quite livid with the Rebbe's decision to keep both schools open. What can I explain to them? I myself don't need a reason, but what can I explain to them? Why would the Rebbe oppose this great, seemingly financial benefit? So the Rebbe says to him, why didn't you ask me right away? This decision was not irrational. It was based on a certain thought process. I would have shared it with you immediately, so you could have presented it to them. And the Rebbe went on to explain to him his thinking. And he said, very often Jewish parents are discontent with the school in which their children are educated. This mother doesn't like the food. It's not nutritious enough, too much, too little. You don't like the teacher, you don't like the curriculum, you don't like the campus, you don't like the environment, you don't like the social life, you don't like the friends, you don't like the system of education, you don't like the principal. There's so many complaints that we have, just or unjust, when it comes to our children's school. The Rebbe said in Brazil now, there are 2 schools. So if a mother is discontent with one school, she goes to the principal, she says, I don't like the class. The principal says, okay, let me try to fix things. But there's only a certain amount he can do. At some point, she says, you know what? This school is not for my child. She takes out her boy or girl from the school, and what does she do? She puts him in the second Jewish school. What happens when there's only one Jewish school? She gets upset with the school. She takes out her child, and she puts him into a non-Jewish school, and we deprive this child from a Jewish education. He said the Brazilian community is not so powerful that if a mother is not happy with the school, she's going to keep her child there anyway or homeschool him and give him or her a powerful Jewish education. No, this child may be deprived from a Jewish education and may be lost to the Jewish people forever. You must have 2 Jewish schools so that if a parent is upset, they have an alternative. And the principal came back to Brazil and he shared this with both boards of both schools. They were astounded. They looked at him and they said, that's how a Jewish leader thinks. There's no personal benefit to the Rebbe of some Brazilian Jewish child staying in the school or going to public school. This is not a Chabad family. The Chabad family wouldn't put their kids in a public school. But this is the way the Rebbe thought, the way the Rebbe taught the Jewish people to think and reflect as we are one people. And the welfare, the physical, financial, emotional, psychological, spiritual welfare of one Jewish child in Brazil or in any other part of the world is relevant to me. I am my brother's keeper. But there was another component the Rebbe introduced into the Jewish vocabulary, and that is how you have to view yourself and how you have to view others. One of his most popular expressions was, when you look at yourself or you look at another person, you have to be able to see that you are viewing and looking at a chelik eloka mimal mamish. Every Jewish soul is a piece of infinity, a fragment of divinity, a manifestation of God's presence in this world. The Rebbe felt this is our path to personal transformation and world transformation. Yes, I may have trauma, I may have insecurities, I may have skeletons, ghosts, demons, toxic thoughts, toxic emotions. I may have experienced terrible pain and abuse, and I may have lots of issues that I got to deal with. But you and I have to remember that at your core, at my core, we are invincible because your core is divine. And just like God is invincible and indestructible, you too are invincible and indestructible at your core. At your core self, you are full of optimism, hope, resilience, joy, courage, resourcefulness. At the core of your life, there is light, abundance, confidence, empowerment. You are an ambassador of God in this world. And when you can see yourself in that way, when you can align yourself with your true core, which is your alignment with infinity, then even the sky is not the limit. You are capable of living a life that is a blessing, not only to yourself and to your home and to your family and to your community, but to the Jewish people and to the world. This required, in the Rebbe's teachings, 2 steps. Number 1, to always identify with your core infinite divine self. And number 2, to see all of the toxicity in you as eclipsing a message that is here to make you and help you grow. So when I am experiencing, for example, toxic thoughts, depression, anxiety, chaos, alienation, loneliness, fear, insecurity, or whatever the term that applies to you and me, never should I allow these thoughts to paralyze me and control me. Rather, I have to welcome them and remember that each and every one of them has a secret message. They're trying to make me more aware. They're trying to help me grow. They're trying to invite me to clarify something in my life, to extricate myself from a repetitive cycle of confinement and imprisonment. They are here to make me a better person. You wake up in the morning, you're feeling terrible stress and anxiety about something. Don't get scared. Don't get overwhelmed. Don't get shocked. Speak to it. Make place for it, because it is eclipsing something very important that you could learn from. And when you will discover what you could learn from that anxiety, you will become a far more powerful, wise, deep person, a far more loving, connected, and impactful person, a person who lives from a much deeper and more powerful place. Remember these 2 things forever. Your core is infinite. Your essence is divine. You are a chelik Eloka mimal. You're a fragment of God in this world. And therefore, you're never, ever a victim. You are always an ambassador of the divine to bring light, love, and healing wherever you are. And when you're experiencing in yourself any form of negativity or toxicity, remember that is only an external facade and layer. Inside of it, there is a message of empowerment. Open yourself up without judgment, but with a lot of compassion to that message, to the inner spark of divinity that lay even within your toxicity. And what will happen is you will emerge more blessed, more kind, and more loving. Thank you very much.
The yard site of a tzaddik is a most auspicious and opportune day. We know that on this day, all of the energy from all of the efforts that the Rebbe made during his life are collected in this 25-hour period. And we can access this energy. We know that a Rebbe's mission is to be Araya Mehemna, one who shepherds faith, who instills faith, strength, and fortitude in the souls of every single Jew of his generation. We all have access to this today in a greater fashion than we do on an ordinary day. Today is a day filled with inspiration. It's a day that is filled with possibility. The Rebbe always focused on doing. What are you going to do with what was just given to you? Just a few days ago, I had concluded a Zoom class, and a friend who was on the class was kind enough to say, "Rabbi, that was very inspiring." And I said, thank you. And then I said, would it be okay if I tell you what the Rebbe would have said to your comment? The Rebbe would have said, how is it going to help me or you that it was inspiring? The question is, what are you going to do with that inspiration? And that's the question that I'd like to leave you with. What are we going to do with all of the inspiration that we heard tonight? So I'd like to leave you with 3 questions to assist you in introspection and in directing all of the inspiration that we heard tonight into a focused point of action. And these questions are, what transformation is your divine soul waiting for in your life? What transformation do you need? Think about that. Now is the time. What divine talent did God endow you with? How can you use that for a more divine purpose, or to have it focused even more so in a divine direction? And the third question, how can you do more? We are infinite souls in finite bodies. We can all do more. These are questions I ask myself, and I ask you to join me in asking yourself. Let us conclude our program with some final words of encouragement from our Rebbe.
Jeder da viele kotische Biktanen hat dem Keach auf zu tun am meisten, was hat Wirkung bechol ha'ilum kulei. Der Rebischter hat a jeder Beton, was hängt dort von nem oder nie, a die Welt soll sein wie a Gamm, a Ort, was verschafft Lechet vergnügen und Teilung. Am geht a Reis in Welt, sich nicht auf was zu schrecken. Wir soll wissen sein, am gefindt sich in a teure Welt. Das ist a Sam in Welt, wo der Rebischter sagt, dass das a Paradies, wo das a Paradische Leben. Und wie hier Rotzein, a Bekore Mamosh und Martei beregete Memre, soll passieren oder die passieren, was es bringen, Yeshua war Zolle lechol ha'elam kulei. Bemele wird das bringen, die Gula ha'mitis war Schleima. Al-idei Mashiach Tzidkenu, was hat dämmert wird das sein, Ekro, kol ha'amim kulam. Liyovdi kulam Shchem Echad. V'hoisel ha'avai ha'amlucho, im Heira b'yameinu mamosh l'chayim.
All right, big ashkach to everybody for watching. And we'll continue the Farbrengen off the air. Tomorrow morning we're going to daven at 8:40. Our night, Rahav-Meir, is every night at 7:50. And Farbrengen will continue off the air.
Y'all did